In the news this week, the animal welfare debate surfaced again as Australia and China made further agreements regarding live animal export.
And the GST reform argument continues as Western Australia fights for a better share.
This is the Evening News with Ivan Leung and Danielle Staniskov.
Good evening. An online petition against live animal export is gaining momentum in Western Australia, with thousands signed a petition in just a few days. The activists are concerned about China's record regarding animal rights.
The controversy surrounding live animal export did not deter Western Australia from embarking on further trading ties with other countries. This time is China.
We're concerned that China does have a horrific record of animal cruelty, and we're also concerned that the government can't currently control markets with much smaller numbers of cattle and much smaller populations of people.
The ink's not even dry on a memorandum of understanding for sheep trade just signed this week, and China's already got their sights set on Australian cattle, as the country's meat appetite is increasing. Animal activist Katrina Love has set up an online petition demanding the federal government to rethink the trade.
I think we got up to 1,000 in that same evening, and it's now nearly at 1,500.
Pastoralist and Graziers Association of WA member and former Livestock Committee Chairman Tim Darcy argued the trade is vital to the survival of farmers and the economy.
A lot of the markets that we currently supply with live export will just not be available for frozen product. We have to make sure that the product is slaughtered in the most humane manner that's possible, and it's a fact of life that we just have to deal with.
The animal activists are planning to send the petition to lobby Tony Abbott, Julie Bishop and Barnaby Joyce. Helene Fung, WAMN News.
During this week's COAG Leaders Retreat, the debate towards the increase of GST continues. While most state leaders agreed with the GST charge for online foreign goods, WA is still fighting for a better GST share.
Now, among the key issues discussed at the 40th annual COAG meeting in Sydney this week, the big focus was on the GST, whether the tax should increase and where its revenues should be allocated.
The simplest and fairest reform is to ensure that most of the GST revenue is allocated to the states on a population basis.
Now, the federal government have proposed a 5% increase to the GST to fill a funding gap in health and other essential services, but this would come at a cost, leaving average households $4,000 worse off a year. Premier Barnett doesn't support this hike, rather an increase to 12.5%. Meanwhile, WA Shadow Treasurer Ben Wyatt said resolving the distribution issue should be the Premier's priority.
What worries me is that Mr Barnett appears to be making noises that he's willing to accept an increase in the rate of the GST before the distribution issue has been resolved.
The nation's leaders have agreed in principle to broadening the GST to include overseas online sales under $1,000. This is expected to reap the government $350 million over 4 years. Blake Denelzark, WAMN News.
Crowdfunding is a popular way for entrepreneurs or activists to collect public support, and now the City of Fremantle has taken up the challenge to raise funds for environmentally sustainable programs. The One Planet Freo Match funding program allows the community to vote for projects which can benefit the society and the environment. Successful applicants will be given an opportunity to sell their project to the community.
I think our councillors are quite excited about the program because we think it's quite different, and we think it will allow our community to actually have an input into what funding is spent on at council.
It's a time for non-for-profit organisation Therapy Focus to rejoice after it received funding from Lottery West. The $890,000 grant was announced by Disability Services Minister Helene Morton. The grant will be used to upgrade Therapy Focus's IT infrastructure to improve efficiency.
A really important organisation in the disability services sector. It's been in operation for around about 17 years, and it provides a range of services to people, families, schools, communities.
And now to the United States, President Barack Obama admitted his failure to pass the gun control laws as one of his few frustrations during his presidency. During a TV interview with the BBC, President Obama believes that the number of Americans killed by gun violence is higher than America's terrorism death toll since 9/11. The National Rifle Association and the gun industry in the United States still opposes mandatory background checks.
The Hong Kong government has announced that they will install water filters at 3 of the public housing projects. Housing Minister Anthony Cheung said the device can remove lead from the water, as the pipe will soon be replaced. Mr Cheung added that water test results from other housing estates should be available within 2 months. However, local residents remain concerned about their health as the opposition calls for further investigation.
And finally, some of WA's best students show off their public speaking skills in the city of Melville this week. Students from a number of high schools were given the opportunity to present their views on certain topics. The aim of the event was to boost students' self-confidence, which the organisers believed was achieved.
And the next step from here is to expand the competition to the country, which we've got to have some country representatives today. We want to expand it to the point where the competition means more than just a certificate and a cash cheque. We're looking at sponsorship now to provide scholarships.
And those are the top stories of the week. We have the latest news on our website.
We'll see you again next Sunday. Good night.
Good night.